We've got a showdown between two star running backs in this Week 7 Sunday night matchup. Can CMC and the 49ers win and stay atop the NFC, or will Bijan and the Falcons soar over San Francisco? We'll see in the simulation, but first, let's get behind the bar and make our drink a Tiki Bird. 49ers and Falcons fans, welcome back. Not really much of a preamble for this one. Both of our representatives this week are Tiki drinks, so I'm really looking forward to the resulting combination. Starting off with Atlanta, our representative for the Dirty Birds is none other than the Jungle Bird. So this one might be a little bit of a stretch, having originated at the Aviary Bar in the Kuala Lumpur Hilton in Malaysia all the way back in 1973. But between the drink's red color and the name conjuring up images of those famous Dirty Birds from the 90s, I just had to include it as this week's representative. Now, the drink has undergone a decent amount of evolution since the 70s, with multiple bartenders tweaking and adjusting the spec as it made its way over to the US. Initially, the drink used to call for a 4-ounce pour of pineapple juice and was served in this large ceramic bird-shaped container, making it more of a long drink. But in 2010, New York bartender Giuseppe Gonzalez dropped that pineapple juice all the way down to 1.5 ounces and changed out the aged rum for a blackstrap rum, creating the modern Jungle Bird that we all know and love today. The Jungle Bird is quite unique as far as tiki cocktails go, calling for a full 1.5 ounce pour of blackstrap rum instead of a mix of various rums like most tiki drinks do. Additionally, it also features 3/4 ounce of Campari, an intensely bitter Italian Amaro. As a result, the final drink is less sweet than most other tiki drinks, which I think is a big part in why it became part of the bridge between tiki culture and the craft cocktail renaissance. Our representative for San Francisco sits at a similar intersection. One of the OG tiki drinks, it was bastardized beyond all recognition in the 60s before returning to form in our modern renaissance. That's right, it's the Mai Tai. Now, like basically every OG tiki drink, there is ongoing debate over whether it was created by Don the Beachcomber down in Hollywood or Trader Vic up in San Francisco. For the Mai Tai at least, the evidence is pretty strong that Trader Vic at least coined the name for the drink, though Don the Beachcomber may have laid some of the foundation for the recipe. Now, if you ask Trader Vic for the recipe, he'd probably say something like,
"Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy?"
That said, we do have countless recipes for the Mai Tai, both from Trader Vic himself and from various competitors and other establishments. The core spec for the Mai Tai is a split rum base, dry Curacao, Orgeat, lime juice, and simple syrup, though this is a very flexible drink. Throughout the 50s and 60s, this drink's flexibility was really tested, as bartenders added pineapple juice, orange juice, grapefruit juice, falernum, bitters, grenadine, even amaretto. Some versions of the Mai Tai also featured a float of either black rum or overproof rum, which was used to sort of give this drink an additional kick to it and make for a really nice, pretty visual. Ultimately, I'm not going to say that there's a wrong way to make a Mai Tai, but there are definitely two things that I look for personally when I'm evaluating one. Number one, the less juice, the better. A 1 ounce of lime juice can really brighten up this drink and make it come alive, but a 3-ounce combo of orange juice and pineapple juice just kind of turns it into a bastard child between a Caribou Lou and a screwdriver. And number two, do the ingredients feel intentional? This one's a little bit harder to gauge just looking at a recipe, but basically, there's no reason for grenadine or amaretto to be in this drink. So there's certainly a good deal of natural overlap between these two drinks, as you know, they're both tiki drinks, but they also have some distinct elements that we're gonna make sure we pull forwards into this final drink. So from the Jungle Bird, we have that blackstrap rum that of course we're keeping in there, as well as that healthy pour of pineapple juice. And from the Mai Tai, you know I had to keep the Orgeat in there. That's such a cool ingredient. So as a result, our final spec for this drink is going to be 1 ounce of our black rum. This is Gosling's Dark Seal, wonderful black rum. As I said way back in week 2, that means that this is back sweetened with molasses, so it's a bit sweeter than your average rum. Accompanying that is 1 ounce of our aged rum, which I'm going to need to get more of. This is a 5-year Plantaray, which is a very nice sipper. Let's see, do we have? We do have a full ounce left. That might be maybe 1/2 ounce left in that one. 3/4 ounce of our dry Curacao. This is, a lovely orange liqueur with some additional notes in there. As the name implies, it is quite dry. It is not as sweet as something like a triple sec, right, like a Cointreau. Then half an ounce of our Orgeat. This is an almond syrup with rose water, I believe, is the additional ingredient in there. It adds some lovely texture to drinks. In addition to the flavor being quite mild and pleasant, the texture that it adds to tiki drinks especially cannot be matched. And really, I don't think there's any sort of, substitute that you could put in its place. Half an ounce of lime juice. Got to keep some of that acidity in there, keep some of that brightness. And then finally, 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. Really gonna add that sort of tropical component to this drink. Add some additional brightness as well. Love pineapple juice, it's so good. All right, now we're going to shake that up. All right, there we go. The break is back, my palms have healed. And then we're going to strain that into our rocks glass. Ooh, lovely pale color. Look at that wash line. Perfectly calculated. And then to stay in the spirit, I'm going to garnish this with a little umbrella. Whew. Go on. All right. There you have it. This is our Tiki Bird. Let's give it a try. Ooh. The Curacao hits you right away. That's definitely the main flavor that jumps out at you when you first take a sip. There's a lot of acidity and bite to this drink. Between the dry Curacao, the pineapple juice, and the lime juice, very sort of bracing and grabs at your mouth. And I think, honestly, it might benefit from even more Orgeat. More Orgeat or less of the pineapple juice, probably. Because it is really quite sort of acidic and bitey. But not bad. Just a bit harsher than I think you'd probably want a drink of this type to be, right? If this is something that's intended to be more of a sort of like chill, laid back, tiki beach sipper type of drink, I think it's coming on a bit too harsh for that. I think one of the interesting things is the flavor profile of this black rum really doesn't punch through at all. I was expecting it to carry sort of the base note of this drink a lot more than it actually does. It actually really kind of fades away and just becomes a bit of additional sweetness. It's just some of that additional sort of sugar backing up this drink, as opposed to being a real sort of solid base note underlining it. Let me go in again. This drink intrigues me. This drink was not what I was expecting it to be, and not for the better, sadly. Yeah, it's not bad. Like, absolutely, I've no complaints with this drink, right? This drink will disappear pretty quickly once I'm done shooting this video, but it's not. I had high hopes for this one because I love a good tiki drink. And it just kind of falls flat in that department. It does the one thing that I think you really don't want your tiki drinks to do, which is it midpoints between two possible ends of the spectrum. You have some tiki drinks that are just like super easy sippers, right? They're very approachable. They're very sort of, sweet, but not cloyingly so. Just nice, enjoyable, beach drinks. And then you have tiki drinks more like the Jungle Bird that are these very intricate, complex mix of a bunch of different flavors, and they're all kind of, coming in from different angles, and it's got a really long evolution to it. And this one just kind of falls in between those two. It's not as, smooth and approachable as something like a Mai Tai or like, I hesitate to consider a pina colada a tiki drink, but that style of drink. And it's not as intriguing and complex and multifaceted as the Jungle Bird is. It just kind of awkwardly falls in that middle spot where it's got a lot of bite, but not a lot of depth. But at the end of the day, it's pineapple, it's orange, it's got a good amount of like sweetness in there from the rums. It's still a very drinkable drink, I'm certainly not sending this one back to the kitchen. I will down it, I will enjoy downing it. It just kind of falls short of expectations for me. So hopefully this matchup doesn't fall short of expectations, but we'll find out in the simulation. This should be an interesting game. I honestly don't know which team will come out on top, but I'm leaning towards San Francisco. Speaking of, the 49ers get the ball first and open with a long sustained drive, eating up over half of the first quarter. On 3rd and goal, Purdy steps up in the pocket, hitting a wide open CMC for the opening 10-yard score. Atlanta answers in kind at the end of the first quarter, except their running back does it on the ground. It's Bijan Robinson with a 10-yard rushing TD. The Falcons' defense gets a stop, and Atlanta's offense makes it down to the 23-yard line, before D. Winters tracks down a scrambling Penix on 3rd and short, backing the Falcons up and forcing them to settle for 3. On 3rd and 1, the Niners try to QB sneak it and somehow come up short. Now, despite basically every analytic saying to go for it in this situation, they instead decide to kick the field goal, tying the game up at 10. The 49ers have a chance to run a 2-minute drill and take the lead going into halftime, but Purdy is picked off, giving the Falcons the ball with excellent field position. Atlanta burns 30 seconds off the clock and pays off the pick with a touchdown as London hauls it in the back of the end zone, giving the Falcons a 17-10 lead at the half. These teams seem to have taken a nap during halftime, as they both just traded punts for the entirety of the third quarter. To cap off this offensive futility, Penix ends the quarter with a failed deep bomb to the back corner of the end zone. However, they did at least get close enough on that drive to attempt the field goal, which extends their lead to 10. At the end of the fourth quarter, the 49ers offense finally gets going as a scrambling Purdy hits Juwan Jennings to make this a 3-point game with just under 3 minutes left. San Francisco's defense gets a stop, and the offense runs an absolutely perfect 2-minute drill as with under 10 seconds left, Purdy scrambles into the end zone, and Atlanta's defense collectively turns into Chris Jones, just staring at him as he scores. With only 5 seconds left, the Falcons fail to make it all the way to the end zone, and the 49ers lock in their dramatic comeback win. Alright, 2 really solid teams in this matchup, though I don't think I'd call either elite just yet. For the 49ers, that's mostly just due to their injury woes, and for the Falcons, it's because they got shut out by the Panthers. As a result, this feels like the appropriate outcome. Not a great game by either of these QBs, as both fell short of 200 passing yards. Brock Purdy had a bit more production, but he also had the lone turnover in this game. Honestly, both of these guys just kind of got slotted into game manager roles from a passing perspective, which is actually kind of in line with expectations for both of these QBs. Well, more so in line with Brock Purdy. Penix is more of a boomer bust QB, with this definitely being a bust game. 2-star running backs in this game, and they both had really solid performances. CMC led the way with 87 yards, which would actually be a season high for him. Meanwhile, Bijan only had 52 yards, but he did manage to notch a touchdown. As for the quarterbacks, Brock's numbers are actually pretty reasonable. He's not a huge scrambler, but he'll get out of the pocket occasionally. Michael Penix is another one of those QBs where I don't know why Madden thinks they're such a scrambler. At the time of writing, Penix literally hasn't rushed for 50 yards total in his career, so no way in hell he's doing that against the 49ers. Over on the receiving side of things, we have 2 unlikely leaders. Okay, I guess this isn't technically a surprise this year, but yeah, Kyle Pitts is continuing his renaissance year, posting 67 yards on a whopping 8 catches. And on the 49ers side of the ball, I guess it's not surprising that CMC is the leading receiver considering all their injuries. Hell, 5 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown would actually be below average for him this season. At the bottom of the stat sheet, it's a real hodgepodge of names, but worth noting once more is Madden's lack of wide receiver 1 love, as Drake London has a real quiet day at the office, 2 catches for 13 yards, though he did manage to find the end zone. Now, normally we see a regression in passing stats going from Madden to the Monte Carlo sim, but it's the opposite for Penix, who sees a 60-yard jump. Both of these QBs are kept under 200 yards though, with both teams really spreading the ball around. CMC and Bijan have nearly identical stat lines in the Monte Carlo sim, each putting up 60-some-odd rushing yards and 30-ish receiving yards. With similar stats, the final scores of this matchup are equally even, with the most likely outcome being a 14-14 tie. The score distribution is really spread out, giving a wide range of feasible results. The distribution is also perfectly balanced, as averaging all 10,000 scores results in a 17-17 tie between these two teams. Do you agree with the simulations, or do you envision a different future? I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments. As a reminder, our drink for this matchup is the sharp and sippable Tiki Bird. If you make it, please let me know what you think, and I'd love to hear your suggestions for what drink should be your team's representative. Stay curious, stay thirsty, and I'll see you in the next one.